Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, friends. Welcome to another edition of Saturday Morning React-TOONS, this time featuring Robotech, episode 69, The Genesis Pit, which we found out is some type of evolutionary prompt or whatnot for the Invid. Can't wait to learn more, my friends. If you could do me a quick favor, hit that like button, smash that subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. It greatly helps out a small channel and it allows me to alert you next time it's time to watch some cartoons. And of course, if there's anything that we do that you would like early or in its full-length format, the link to our Patreon is in the description. Not a fan of Patreon? Stick with us here on YouTube memberships. You'll get all of our episodes about a day early, plus any bonus episodes we come up with. But my dear friends, all that is then and this is now, and now it's a time for sugary cereal. Now it's a time for hot coffee. Now it's a time for whatever you want to drink. I'm not here to judge you. Now it's a time for Robotech, episode 69, The Genesis Pit. Prepare to engage maximum warp reaction. And away we go! Fanfare! Marcel. So Lancer's my favorite, and I'm trying to figure out who my second favorite is. It's probably Scott, if I'm being completely honest. And it's not because I dislike anybody, it's because of just who's kind of like stood out for me personally as like just a personal preference. And I think we talked about it a couple times ago. Anybody that's got like a tortured soul, it tells a little bit about me. With Scott kind of like still in the early stages of grief with Marlene and whatnot. That's it's a good story, as horrible as that sounds, it makes for good drama. So I think Scott's my second favorite after Lancer. And if that changes, I'll let you know. I like everyone. Those are just happen to be my two favorites so far.
Somewhere in the fourth quadrant of the known universe, on a seemingly insignificant planet of a minor solar system, a war of interplanetary proportions is being waged.
Okay.
Are the Invid and the native inhabitants of this planet, a race of creatures calling themselves humans.
Oh, okay. I'm like, where are we?
The living creatures of this world have evolved through their long history into many...
We need more of this.
In order to carry out our plans to find this ultimate life form, we will be utilizing Genesis kits to carry out experiments in biogenetic engineering.
Ultimate life form.
We should have an answer to the problem which has stopped our race from becoming the true power it is destined to be.
So they're looking for like an apex evolution of humanity? Natives of this planet, I'm assuming they mean us.
I'm about 10 miles ahead of you. We'll never be able to make those mountains by nighttime.
I love that. Doing advanced scouting.
Heads up, Annie, there he is, and right on schedule, too.
That's super cool.
I'll get my cyclone and we'll check out the area before Lancer and the others get here. All right, let's go.
That's awesome. Little touches like that make this show so stand out, this leg of it stand out.
Don't tell me we're being watched. They can't be everywhere. This is crazy.
Calm down, Annie. We've got to check it out before the others get here. Follow me.
Whoa.
Switch to battle armor. Right.
Annie, you're on your own. Good catching, good catching.
Yeah, you may be right. Trouble is, we're heading right for it. It's coming up fast.
It's a long damn way to fall.
Can you tell if we're near the bottom yet?
Got me. This place is pitch black.
Cool setup so far. Really, I'm liking everything that we've had so far.
Where are we? What happened? Rand, are you okay? Speak to me. Annie?
Rand's out.
Rand, are you okay?
We must have missed a turn somewhere.
This is very strange. We have a full ecosystem down here.
Annie, move out of the way, quick!
It might be friendly. Kill it!
Huh? Here,
Scott, here come some more of those monsters.
Are they monsters or? Oh, yes.
They don't waste a minute.
Well, they're lizards. That's not necessarily monsters. And they're cannibals. This reminds me of, what was it in the X-Men, the Savage Land down in Antarctica, right?
No, Lancer, I followed the road south till it ran out, but there was no trace of them.
Yeah, the pit opened and closed, so you're not going to find it.
I wish I knew where this trail leads. I've had enough surprises for one day. Do you have any idea where we're going?
No, I don't. But anywhere away from those reptiles will be fine with me.
You don't know what you're going towards, though.
Cliffs and ceiling come together.
Oh.
You're right, Annie. This space is completely enclosed, top to bottom.
How are you getting light, and how are these...
You better have a look.
Ooh.
Unless these intruders are contained and neutralized, the experiment may fail.
Oh, awesome. This is an Invid, kind of like a Invid experiment dome or something.
We made it!
I knew it! Our troubles are over now!
We just full force driving towards an edge of something we don't know if there's a bottom or a continuation of.
Boy, that was a close one, all right. Wait a minute, what the...
Oh, we got more animals.
Couple more dinosaurs!
Okay, so with the preface, it sounds like they're experimenting with what they believe to be any type of life on our planet, what would be the highest evolutionary order. Is that what it is? Thus, they're looking at, like, dinosaurs and stuff.
Are you sure they were there?
Scott, you've got to believe me. I'm telling you, I saw them.
They probably are involved here. It wouldn't surprise me.
Rand, Scott, look, it's a giant ball or something, isn't it neat?
Jesus, Annie, we're just gonna let you die.
Too many strange things in this valley. You shouldn't be playing around up there.
I'm being careful.
Sort of looks like an egg, doesn't it? Dear God. I might be converting for a T-Rex. Never mind. Handheld blasters will take it.
Hey, Scott, Invid, there they are!
Oh, not again. Rand, I'm telling you, I don't see anything.
Scott, take his word for it.
I know what I saw. They were there, they're still there, and they're waiting.
Yep.
None of this makes any sense to me. First of all, there are prehistoric monsters running around who should be extinct. Second, there are Invid running around, and they don't attack us. Why?
Okay, they're in the middle of the experiment is what they said.
This fire makes me feel a whole lot safer.
It also draws predators, but okay.
Pretty big fish. They shouldn't be too hard to catch.
I would not be out of the armor, just FYI.
I can't believe my eyes. This thing should be extinct. So should that pterodactyl. See what I mean? Flying reptiles like that were supposed to have died out over 20 million years ago.
It is the same as the Savage Land. It's cool.
I'm just wondering what else might be floating around out there.
Totally missed like the brontosaurus behind him, or the diplodocus or whatever it would happen to be.
I mean, how do three people just disappear off the face of the earth with no warning and no sign of trouble? I tell you, I just can't figure it.
I just can't figure it. How can she sleep in a place like
Great
this?
cut.
She's just a kid. What do you expect?
She's tired, man.
I can hear you perfectly well. Now, if you try and be quiet, I can work this whole thing out in my head.
Well,
Really?
The last thing I remember before we hit the bottom was passing through a layer of pure energy.
That red energy, yep.
Then suddenly, we were face to face with monsters from a much later era of biological development. How can they be existing together in the same space and time?
Oh, okay. I didn't realize they were from different eras.
On the other hand, these plants and animals are here. They're definitely real. In some cases, dangerously real.
I mean, the plants and insects technically would be just as deadly.
I see. This is one big lab. This mix of prehistoric animals and plants, now I'm beginning to understand what it all means. It's incredible.
a laboratory? What are you talking about?
Makes a question that what do the Invid look like? Are they the...
That's what it is, of course. Before they can reach their full potential, they'll have to adapt their physical forms to meet the demands of different environments.
Hold on.
That's a little bit of a leap, but okay.
To
Just
attack.
a minute. You've got to calm down.
Calm down. We've got to tell the others before the Invid find a life form that lets them dominate this planet.
More so?
The age of humans is coming to an end. Now, a new era begins on Earth.
What?
What's she babbling about?
Rand, she sounds possessed.
Holy shit.
Extent of our power.
Hey, Scott, get back!
Holy shit.
The Earth is entering an era of domination by a different form of life, which has traveled a different evolutionary path.
This is awesome. I like Annie now.
What happened to me? Huh?
Mint, remember you talked about evolution.
Of a what?
There is no Annie, only Zool.
And be sure your body armor conversion units are in place. You may be needing them.
Hold tight.
I mean, where are we going, though? We're just driving in the dark at this point. No, slow down a little bit there, Scott, and actually hit a couple of them. Oh, he's hitting them.
These guys don't look so good. Must have been something they tried to eat.
That's a good line. So that voice, is that like the hive mind of the Invid? Or like a leader? Destroying their experiment if this is the Invid, which I thought was what they were trying to avoid, but...
The middle of a dinosaur stampede is not the safest place to be while an earthquake is going on.
What are we gonna do?
Invid, they're up ahead.
Ah! Oh, there they go!
Where are they going? That wireframe of the Invid, I like that very much.
Rand, we found the opening, but it's disappearing.
What? We've got to get up there or we may be trapped here forever.
Yeah, go, go, go. I mean, the Invid have to have a way out. They're not gonna, presumably, not gonna seal themselves in.
They're heading for the exit. We've got to stop them.
It's a hell of a fight for two cyclones. Really cool, like, oh, good shot. Really cool, like, tactical, like, HUD, like, displays and stuff like that. Damn, dude. Let's go. Oh, good. It's like a tractor, elevator, beam lift tube thing. I still don't understand why they would bring this whole place down if it was an experiment, but maybe it's not them. I don't know. I'm kind of with you, Annie. I feel bad for him, too. Oh, yeah, they're all dead.
Hold on, folks, we're almost to the top.
Faster, must go faster.
Huh? Look!
Jumping Jupiter! The whole mountain range is sinking into that pit.
Dear God. First off, can you imagine, like, what's the Richter scale of that?
Those dinosaurs would never have been able to survive properly. The conditions on the surface of the planet aren't right anymore. Time has simply passed them by.
When the Invid talk about time having passed by human beings?
Well, they're wrong. Humans have plenty of time. It's the Invid who will be extinct. It's the Alpha Fighter with the rest of our guys. Well, it's about time. I wonder what took them so long.
Who's flying, Lancer?
An act of nature has saved the Earth from the destructive plans of the Invid this time.
Okay, act of nature, so I'm assuming. All right, everybody, we just finished watching Robotech New Generation, episode 69, The Genesis Pit. And the only thing left to do is talk about it. All right, everyone, we just finished watching The Genesis Pit, episode 69 of Robotech's New Generation. Really enjoyed this one. I enjoyed this one from tip to tail. No dinosaur pun intended or included there. Because at the very beginning, you know, it was we got a chance to see really kind of like the day-to-day of our freedom fighters. We got to see, you know, like Scott scouting ahead, them saying, oh, you're in this sector, you know, we're 10 minutes back, I'm 10 miles ahead, don't see anything, you know, when we land, let's go out and scout, I'll get my cyclone, you know, basically like how they go about their day-to-day activities of, you know, making sure that they are heading towards reflex point, but at the same time making sure that they're covering ground, staying safe, staying out of the Invid flight path, that type of stuff. Really, really interesting, you know, and again, it's that little attention to detail, like the call signs and like the sector descriptions and just like their jargon, really, that really makes me fall more and more into this leg of Robotech because I think that it's so unique. And that's the thing I love the most about this one. It's so unique, it's so different, and it's exceptionally well done because of little moments like this. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you might think to yourself, you know, oh, when they're doing this dialogue and this kind of just like casual banter between like the ground units and Scott up in the like advanced scouting, It just that's just dialogue and things like that. But they added a little extra bit of realism to it with like I said, they're starting to talk and understand one another in this kind of shorthand that they have. And I really like that because it shows a maturation of the group as a whole. It shows like a development of each of the individual members of that group. And at the same time, it shows a budding dynamic between different people that might have been a little bit more not I don't think anybody's ever truly been confrontational, but a little bit more rough with each other. You know what I mean? Not comfortable yet. Especially Scott and Rand. We've talked about them a bunch, so I won't go into too much detail. But Rand is a freedom fighter, guerrilla warrior in the traditional sense, and Scott is a military tactician. Kind of born from two different sides of the same coin as far as battle is concerned. But I do really like kind of like this marriage that we're getting between those two kind of different philosophies, getting sort of a little bit stricter with the way that we do things, which would kind of fall into Scott's wheelhouse or Scott's interpretation of the military, but also Scott being able to understand that certain things need to be done beyond what he learned, and this is a different war, and he needs to be able to adapt. So it's really cool. It just shows growth, which is what we want. None of the characters, I'm so glad because there's in many situations, especially with like kind of ensembles like this, throughout really cartoons, if you're just kind of looking at like groups that have multiple members, there's usually somebody in there that you're less fond of. I thought for sure that was going to be Annie. However, and Annie, to be very, very fair, Annie was probably on my lowest of like my like meter for the group, but I didn't dislike Annie. It's like I like everybody else a little bit more than Annie, maybe is the better way to say it. But the idea that Annie is in like a position of possession for whatever this voice is of the Invid, now that is interesting to me. That is very cool to me. If she's going to be like the conduit, maybe going forward for how the Invid converse with our group, that is really, really cool to me. Yeah, so that whole thing, and again, let's just talk briefly about whatever that voice is. I don't know if it's a hive mind, and I don't think so. I think it's a leader of some kind because we saw like a shadowy, vaguely feminine outline inside that energy. I guess that's the voice. Now, I know that in Robotech Sentinels, we had two kind of like distinct Invid people. There was like, I think they were married. I mean, it was like a husband and wife, I think, like a queen and something like that. So I'm not sure if this is the same voice from that. It's been a hot minute since I watched Sentinels, and honestly, I didn't have the context for it at the time. Probably should have waited to the end, like many of you suggested, so I would be able to understand and pick up on these little bits and points and stuff like that. Missed characters and things like Wolf. I didn't know about Wolf. Even though I should have because they were mentioned in Sentinels. But, again, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I have to, live in the bed that I made for myself. So, but which is, I don't think it's a big deal. But I want to make sure that I have the appropriate context. So that's where you all come in. So if there's a non-spoilery way of telling me, hey, basically this, can you tell me if the voice is a singular creature and is it the one from Sentinels? Because I do remember there being, two kind of predominating voices for the Invid that were in different locations. I guess the husband was in like the space battle that was going on, and then I am assuming that the Invid like invasionary force was commanded by the wife or the female voice. So I'm assuming that's it. If I'm wrong, friends, just say, hey, you're wrong. Wait, or something like that, please. I appreciate it. Again, this one for me, this episode gave us a lot of cool information about the plan. This is probably the most we've received about the Invid's plan. We had mention of the Genesis pit in our last episode, but this time we find out now, and it was described as being sort of like an evolutionary laboratory where, I originally assumed it to be something that the Invid were going to do to themselves to make themselves better. And I still think that's what it is, but I didn't realize that the extent of that was them basically using biological life on planet Earth to see if there was like, I guess, the highest evolved form, like the highest evolutionary marker, would be something that they could, I guess, incorporate into themselves or become. Is it something like they're going to look at it and realize that somehow humans, like fully evolved, like maybe a couple thousand years from now, humans would be, if they can go beyond current evolution, might be the best, like, I don't know, physical form for them. I mean, I'm kind of spinning a little bit as to what they're ultimately going to do. Or are they going to take like genetic indications and strengths from whatever life form they deem to be the most worthy on Earth and incorporate that specific like genetic quality? Like, would they get an eye, like they find eagles or they have a great eyesight or something like that, and do they incorporate that into like future Invid? I'm very curious about that. It also, to me, the entire idea of the Genesis pit gives the Invid something more. Because as an enemy faction, they are lacking in a lot of things. We've talked about the idea that, we just don't hear a lot about them. We don't hear from their side of everything like we did with Bretai and with the Masters. We don't hear their machinations. We don't hear, like, the current temperature of that side. Like, how are they doing? Are they, at each other's throats, Chiron? Are they, moving towards this or that? Do they even give a shit about us like the Masters, or don't consider us a threat? We don't get a lot of that from them, but we got a lot from this one. And I think that if the Invid are more than just like creatures hell-bent on getting protoculture and the flower of life, then if there's anything more to them, I'm totally down for that, because I think as an enemy unit, they need to have more motivations than just protoculture and food. I mean, again, is that a main motivation? It's called survival. So yeah, it's a very good motivation. I just think they need to have more to flesh them out and kind of broaden their broaden their target window as an enemy. If we find out that they're here to also kind of not steal, but mimic, apply, copy evolutionary data from the planet, from the creatures that ever walked on Earth. To me, that's super interesting, because that speaks of a culture that doesn't think that it's good enough. And I really like that, because it seems like they're pretty damn good at what they do. And I'll end with this. The Invid before New Generation, the Invid were basically painted as this unstoppable enemy. Like the Masters were terrified of the Invid. We've got to do this. The Invid are coming. We've got to make this work. The Invid are coming. We got to hurry up. They're going to be here before we know it. Like, the only chance we have is to do X, Y, Z. And they were absolutely just shitting themselves that the Invid were on their way. And I remember the same type of kind of like the same temperature, the same kind of feeling in Sentinels. Oh my God, the Invid. Oh, they're here. That stuff on that one planet with the scientist and his assistant. They were, oh my God, they're here. And everybody just like lost their shit as the Invid destroyed everything. Rightfully so. I mean, I make it sound like, they lost their shit. They weren't brave enough. Yeah, I would be shitting myself if the Invid dropped from the sky. Forget it. But beyond that, I think, like I said, adding this genetic marker really kind of, to me, with the universe or galaxy or whatever you want, viewing the Invid as like the apex predator of this region of space. They don't view themselves like that. They think that they're incomplete. They think there's more work to be done. They don't think they're ready for whatever threat they fear. There's got to be something out there that's tougher than us. We've got to get better. That's an interesting, for somebody who's the champ to think, there's somebody out there that can beat me. I got to keep getting better. That's a really interesting mindset to me. You know what I mean? Very, very cool stuff. Friends, if you could do me a favor, hit that like button, smash that subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. It greatly helps out a small channel, and it allows me to alert you next time it's time for some Saturday morning React-TOONS. And of course, if there's anything that we do that you would like early or in its full-length format, the link to our Patreon is in the description. But my dear friends, all that is then and this is now, and now it's time to say goodbye. So where should we say goodbye from? Well, friends, I say we say goodbye from a moment before this episode occurs. Back when the Savage Land, or whatever we're calling I don't think it's a Genesis pit itself, maybe, whatever that laboratory, that biodome underground was, before any interference with our protagonists. But, for a moment, maybe a safe moment where we find a nice little outlook, a nice little rock cropping to look down on everything from. We get to experience the beauty of what the Invid are actually doing. This kind of process of learning the history of the creatures that walked our earth. And for us, it's a history lesson as well. Though we aren't trying to become the dinosaurs, it's okay to appreciate them. Friends, until such time as we can appreciate this great show, Vulcan roll, and I'll see you.